name is Ingrid Honkala, and this is such an honor and such a blessing to be here with you guys today. And first, I want to say thank you to all of you for sharing this moment with me. So, I'm here today to share with you a little bit of my story. Yes, I cannot tell it all, but at least I can tell some really, really important parts of the story. And this might be able to help some of you in your journey to discover that there is more beyond this realm, more beyond this physical realm that we experience every moment in our daily lives. And the way I can prove that there is more beyond this physical realm is because I had a near-death experience that I'm going to share with you today. And after this near-death experience, I had countless spiritual transformative experiences that happened throughout the course of my life. And all of these gave me the clarity and the absolute knowing about the existence of an afterlife, and that there was more beyond what we can see or what we can sense with our five senses. And not just that, but tonight I'm going to share with you that my NDE gave me the possibility to bring back absolute proof that there is communication between the spirit realm and this physical realm. And you will be amazed when I tell you how I could bring this proof and what happened. But let me tell you, that communication between our deceased loved ones and us here in this realm truly exists. So first I'm going to start telling you about my near-death experience. What happened was I was very young. I was just a little one, just 2-year-old, pretty much a baby, close to 3 years old, when my near-death experience happened. And at the time I was living with my parents and my sisters in Bogota, where I was born, Bogota, Colombia. And my parents at the time had to work, and they left us at the care of the maid. And during those days, it was very normal. It was part of the culture that the maid will live in the house with the family, especially because Colombia was a country that was at war. We were fighting an internal war, and at the time, it was safer for the daughters of the people living in the rural areas to come and live in the big cities. And the way to do it was staying in just the house of the families where they were working. So my parents, it was a morning, a weekday, my parents left for work. And this lady that was living with us, she really didn't have a true connection with us. And she would just pretty much, like when my parents left for work, she wouldn't pay too much attention to us. So that morning, my parents left, and it was, like I said, really early, and she went back to her room. And my oldest sister and we were very young. My oldest sister was 3, I was 2, and the youngest was 1. So she went to her room, and my sister and I snuck out of the bedroom and decided to go to the back patio of the house. And sitting in the corner of this patio, there was a big tank. And the purpose of this tank was for hand washing clothes, because at the time in Colombia, I'm talking at the early 70s, we didn't have washing machines. It was very rare to find families with washing machines. So the purpose of this tank was to use the water from this tank to hand wash clothes. So next to the tank, there was a flat surface where people could hand wash the clothes. The reason I talk about this tank is because that's where the accident happened that day. So people have the misconception actually that because I come from Bogota, Colombia, I come from a hot weather country. And Bogota is a high altitude city. So in reality, the temperature there at night and early in the morning can get quite chilly. So it could be around 30, 40 degrees Fahrenheit. So that morning, the water in that tank was probably around that temperature, 30, 40. And my sister, just, and I being little and not thinking about any dangers, decided, oh, let's play catch across the tank. So we grabbed a couple of stools because the tank was pretty high. This tank was big. I think that the tank could hold like 900 gallons of water. So we grabbed the stools. She went on the flat surface next to the tank, and this was just kind of a little bit safer. And she sat there, and I went to the other side where there was a thin edge. So I had to make an extra effort right there to keep my balance, and I just bended my legs, and I was just leaning there precariously. But at that age, you're not thinking about any dangers. You're not thinking that anything is going to happen. So my sister just grabbed the ball. She threw the ball at me, and when she threw the ball, she didn't apply enough force, and the ball fell in the water. But it was actually kind of close enough that I thought I could grab it. And when I went to grab the ball, it rolled in the surface of the water, and I fell. And wow, the first feeling when falling into this water was the intense feeling of being cold. Just like imagine feeling in like 30, 40 degrees water. The first thing was like, and at that moment, it was like I felt like my chest kind of collapsed inwards. And since I was also so little, just 2 years old, I think I was still having what is called the gagging reflex. So my throat actually closed. So it didn't allow water to go in. So at that moment, I didn't know at that age. I didn't have any idea that if you fall into water, you drown. Up to this point, I have never been in a pool. We didn't have a bathtub. So I didn't know. I didn't know how to swim. So I just realized I cannot breathe. And I started this desperate attempt to breathe, but there was no way. So I went from this moment of absolute horror and the terror of like, I cannot get any air, when just like that, guys, in just an instant, boom, I went from terror to a state of absolute joy, peace, sense of absolute freedom. It was like the sense of, I don't have to fight. I don't need to breathe this air. I was just absolutely well. And right before, there was a few things that were really amazing, because right before this happened, all I could hear was my heart beating like a bass drum in my head. Boom, 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 and the fear and the terror. And now that I was in this absolute peace, I experienced what silence is. I went to this state of absolute silence and peace and quiet. It's what I call the silence behind the silence. I also was living in a house where I had two sisters, a dog, birds, the cousins living next door. So imagine this was just like, it felt so amazingly good. And the other incredible and the other contrast was that this tank was big, was made of cement. The tank had a little roof, so even if it was raining, you could be washing clothes. So imagine this tank was so dark that when you looked at the water from the top, you could never see the bottom. It was like you actually could see your reflection in the water. So when I fell in the tank, that was the other thing. The last thing I saw was darkness. Complete darkness. But then, ping, a light just went on. And this light came from below. So to me, I compare this with like the light of a candle. that was just LED, and this dim light was able to illuminate my whole watery surrounding. And now I was in this atmosphere of like, absolute wellness. And I started to just look at bubbles that were in the water, and these bubbles were surrounded by light. So I started to chase the bubbles, and when I turned around, I saw a body suspended in the water. And right there, somehow I had the realization that that was my body. And incredibly, I didn't feel surprised. I didn't feel fearful. I just knew. It's like, oh, that's my body. And I saw the body had the eyes wide open. And another amazing thing that brought a lot of contrast to this experience was that, to tell you a little bit more of who I was before that, I was born as a very, very sick child. So for the first 3 years of my life, I was unwell. My mom had really difficulties during the pregnancy. She was very depressed, and I was born as a very depressed child. I didn't want to eat. I had respiratory problems. So for the first 3 years of my life, I was unwell. So I didn't even know what wellness meant, because I was never at a different state. I was always sick. So imagine now going from that to feel absolutely well. Wow. So of course, when I saw that body suspended in the water, I also somehow had the realization that I could not go back to it. I was like, no way. So I turned around and I left. And right there, at that moment, I started to see flowers blooming from nowhere. These flowers were popping from nowhere, and she's like, wow, that was just majestic. Then I was picked up by the flowers, and I started to be carried like in a forward direction. And I just say, people, this is like the sense like when you go back to the womb. It's the sense like when you don't have to do anything, you're just being done. It was like incredibly amazing. And then just like in just a blink, just like that, I appeared in the maid's room. And I was looking at her from above, like if I was like from the ceiling, and I just like, I had a view of the entire place. And guys, my experience is so vivid and so clear in my mind that I can even remember the soap opera that she was listening in the radio. And she was lying on her bed, completely unaware of what was happening to me. So from there, I even say, that's Maria. And from there, in just again, like a second, in just a flash, I appear in my mom's path. Like I said to you guys, my mom had left for work. And at the time, she didn't have a car. So she had to walk to her bus station that was about 10 minutes away from home. And when I appeared there on her path, she was close to arrive to her bus stop when I just looked at my mom from above and I said, "Oh, that's Mom." And guys, the moment I said that, my mom stopped. And she didn't even hesitate. She didn't even move forward, nothing. She's like, something is happening at home with one of my babies. And she immediately turned around and started to run back home. And she just ran fast. And I just looked at her like, even like, what? She's just running. But at that moment, I got distracted by the realization that wherever I put my mind, I could go. It was like for me, time and space had vanished and I could be anywhere at any time. So if I would put my mind at the end of the street, I would be there. So I just started to play this game of going places like, wow, this is so much fun. And forgot about everything else. And then just like that, again, in just a blink, I appeared in a realm that was made of pure, bright, intense, shiny light. And this was the moment when I felt, I am home. And it was like if I have left that morning for work, I put this example, and I was just coming back in the evening. So not even 3 years had passed. There was no time. It was just immediate, like I just was back. And even though I didn't see anybody, I had the feeling that I was being welcomed. And I was just, oh, this is so good, I'm home. And the next that happened is that at that moment, up to there, I didn't realize that still, even though I saw my body in the water, I didn't have yet the realization that I was not Ingrid. I was not that. And then when I had that realization in me, I realized that I was a being made of bright light. And right there, I started to feel the sense that I was dissolving. And I was like becoming one with the whole. But up to then, I was still having a sense of self. But that even dissolved, guys. That went away. Because I went beyond that. I went to the point where, like, I would say is the state of non-self, or the state of nothingness. And there's no words that I can use to describe what nothing means. I only can tell you what is not. And this is a state where there's absence of color, there's no movement, no form, no texture, no sound, no feeling, no meaning, no description. It's just there. And when I was in this state of being, my mom finally arrived home. And this was also incredible because we live in a big house. And she also knew exactly where to go. And she directed herself to the back of the patio. And right there in that corner and on that surface, my sister, which I'm going to talk about more about this later, but it's when I realized over time that absolutely everything has a purpose. And over time, it was revealed to me the purpose of everything that happened, every symbol, every detail in my near-death experience was revealed to me. So that day, the purpose of my sister being there was for my mom to know for sure that I was there. So my mom went to the tank and she's like, Ingrid is there and I cannot get her. She was 3 years old, so she couldn't get me out, but she never moved away from there. And my mom got me out of the tank. I was just like a raggedy doll. All my lips were blue, my fingers, I was all white. And my mom, this is another incredible thing, like how life prepares us to what is to come. And my mom knew CPR because she worked with kids and she was trained CPR. So she started to do all she needed to do to bring me back. She started to push my chest, blow air, do all the stuff she needed to do. But at that moment, I was so detached, guys, so detached from my body that I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel anything she was doing with this body. And what suddenly happened was that I felt like I jumped from the tallest building in the world. And I started to feel like I was being sucked, like I was being pulled back into my body, and there was nothing I could do. Nothing I could do to stop this. And I just was backing back, and I knew I was back when all the feelings of like pain and discomfort and coldness and everything was now there. Again, now I didn't feel well like I was feeling before, so it's just like, no! So let me tell you, I was not a happy camper. I was not happy to be here. I was not happy to be trapped in this body and to come back. But life kept going, and And through time, like I said to you, many things were revealed to me. And one of the things that I learned from this incredible experience was that the reason, this is like I mentioned to you, one of the purposes of all these, the reason why I went to meet the maid and I went to meet my mom is because I was going to come back. Otherwise, I would not be here. But this is the other beautiful thing and the other incredible message from all this is that why did I went to meet these two people? Why was just not my mom directly? Because I meant to bring back the message of connection. The maid didn't have absolutely any connection with us. She was doing her job. She didn't feel love for us. She actually mistreated us. So there was not any connection there. So even though she was closer to the place where I was drowning and I went to look for her, she couldn't feel me. There was nothing there. There was not a glue. And of course, opposite with my mom. Unconditional love. Complete connection. So we were connected to the point that she was open to listen. She was there to receive me. And I also have to say something about my mom, because people will think why this doesn't work for everyone. My mom is a highly intuitive person. And I say that all of us have the gift of intuition. But intuition is like a muscle. We have to develop it and work it, and it grows and it develops. And my mom I'll tell you more about my mom later, but she's incredible. She's very open. So she was there to listen that call. So life was showing me, and in my life, I came back to bring that message of connection. All the people we connect with, we create that bond of love. And that happens even here. Like when our kids go somewhere or our parents and something happens, we feel it when we have that connection and that bond that is so strong. That's our intuition, here and wherever we are. And this strong connection with my mom was very, very important in my path for the things that were to come. Because the aftermath of my near-death experience, guys, was really, really hard. Things were very difficult for me and for all of us, because I just came with things that no one was prepared for. And I wasn't prepared for that either. Of course, I was just little. So I just came with a clarity and an awareness that I didn't have before. So it was like when I saw my parents, and I had this clarity that my parents were not actually just my parents. I started to feel my parents as my equal. And I came with the sense of oneness, because I experienced it up there. So for me, there was like, we are one. And I just had the realization that I was not a baby. That was just a state of my body. And I came with gifts, like no long after, I was able to start reading. Imagine, I was just 3 years old and I was able to read and write, build complex puzzles. I was able to solve mathematical problems. But what happened is that during my near-death experience, I realized that this was just a state. This was just a new home I was living in. But I have been here for a long, long, long time as a being. So what happened when I came with all this clarity, with all this knowledge, it's just like, I don't have to learn anything. I just have to remember. So that's how my life turned into. I just had to remember who I was. So imagine all this packed into like a 3-year-old. How you deal with this? And how you deal with this at the time that this happened? Because right back there in the 70s and in Colombia, there was no knowledge of this at all. So this was really, really, really hard for all of that, as I didn't have the way or the words, or nobody had the understanding of the knowledge to be able to share what was happening. So what happened? I started to feel that limitation to the point that I felt that I couldn't relate with anybody. And I felt that I was just feeling so angry. And I became sicker than I was before. And I refused to eat. And I couldn't relate with other kids because I looked at them and I say they don't know anything. And I would just want it to be with adults because I just felt, at least they're talking about things that are kind of better. They know more. And I will see, and it was amazing because my mom would bring me there and they're chatting with friends, family. And I'm there like, I'm paying attention. They don't know. And they're talking about their sufferings and they're talking about their challenges. And I'm like, I know that because I've been there. I know that and I know that. So it was amazing. But like I said, things were really hard for me. And I used to look at myself in the mirror and cry and pull my hair off and say, go to my mom and say, you don't understand. This is not me. This is not my name and I should not be here. And my mom, she just will come and like hug me and say, don't say things like that. God is giving you this life. You're a pretty girl. She didn't have clue what was happening. It was so hard. And there was another thing. It's good for me to bring back here so you guys have more clarity who my parents were. My parents were forced to marry when they were 17 years old. So by the time I was 3, they were in their early 20s. And think about the generation. At the time, there was not internet. There was none of that. So they were so innocent. They didn't know anything like this. And like I said, the country was going through a war. So they didn't have much money. So they did what they could to deal with this situation. And in a way, I'm so glad they didn't have too much money because they didn't have the way to bring me to a psychologist. Or who knows where I would have ended up or taking what. So they just kind of worked through it. But the most amazing thing here is that the help that we need will come. And sometimes will come in the most unexpected way. And in my case, it came in a very, very amazing, what I would just call in people that don't know how this goes, but I just could say it in the most miraculous way. So what happened is that right after my near-death experience, I started to have experiences that were very similar to the one I experienced when I nearly died. So I was being taken to that realm of the light I experienced, but to go there, I had to go through a series of really disturbing things. Like I could see movements and feel and hear sounds that were very disturbing. They were really fast, and colors and things that I have never seen in this physical realm. And every time this happened, although this was disturbing, I accepted it. I wanted it because I was being taken to that realm and I wanted to be there. And one day, in one of these journeys, when I appeared in this space of light, I was surrounded by starlight figures that were shining in all different colors. It's like, whoa! I was just mesmerized by this. And it kept happening. And in one of these journeys, there was a time when one of these lights, a gold, pure, beautiful golden one, shaped itself into a human form to show me like I am like you. And it approached me and it touched me. And at that moment I just was like, oh, you are a being of light. And at that moment I had the clarity that although the other ones didn't transform, all of them were beings of light. And then, wow, now I was really, really eager to go bed. Like, oh yeah. And not long after, I was taking a shower. I was all relaxed. People will ask me, they will think that because I drown, maybe I developed a phobia for water, but look, I became an oceanographer, which what happened was the complete opposite. Water and drowning brought me to the light. So look at how something so horrific and dramatic can actually have a complete different effect. It brought me to see and feel and experience home. So every time I was taking a shower or whatever, when I was in the water, I would just be transported. I was just like, wow. And I was taking a shower when suddenly a light appeared in the bathroom. It was a blue, huge, bright light. And I just looked at it and I'm like, oh, being of light. And from there, they started to appear everywhere. And they just like, oh. And the beautiful thing is that they didn't have to say or do absolutely anything. But just by being there, just their presence and the sense of love, again, just bringing back the love, I started to heal. And I started to eat, and I started to communicate more, and I started to feel better and eager to go bed. And I told my parents, I am seeing beings of light. But they thought that I was just dreaming. So they just saw I was doing well. Let's keep going with this. So, but although I was feeling better, guys, and I was doing better, I was still very detached from my name. I was still like very detached to the person I was, to my persona. So I kept throwing big tantrums. And in one of these tantrums, now we had a new maid and she was calling me to go eat dinner. And I would just not listen. Ingrid, not listen. And I would do this. And she came to me and she's like, Ingrid, I'm calling you for dinner. And I turned to her and said, don't call me like that. That is not my name. And she just said to me, so what is your name? And I said, I do not need one. And that was my answer every time. And they just sent me to bed because they had enough of me. And I went to bed crying, all was mad about it. And that was the first time that the beings of light talked to me. So now I was not just in the presence of this light, but now I was hearing. It was like, whoa. So I now hear the voice, and it was a very loving, very, very compassionate, very soft, kind. And he said to me, it's going to take time for anyone around you to understand. And I was just like, oh, understand what? And they said, understand that names are not needed in the realm of the light, as you already know. Like, oh, at that moment was when I had more clarity. Like, oh, I get it. And it's when I started to see, like, I get it, there's different realms. Because up to that moment, now I was 4 years old, I was thinking that when I would wake up in the morning or when I was like, is this a dream? I didn't know if this was a dream. But then I started to realize that I was just living in the two realms. The door never was closed. So now I was having this clarity. And it's when they said to me, all the things that you are experiencing and the ones that you are going to experience are all gifts. And they're all given to you to help yourself and to help others. And they say you don't need to worry because we will be here to guide you. And at the time, they also said to me that I shouldn't talk to anybody about this. But I just to make this clear to you, they never tell you, like, don't do this. They would never be there. They never told me what to do, what not to do. They were just there to guide me. And this was just a warning. Don't talk to them because they're not going to understand. So, but at that age, I couldn't understand why they don't understand. What is not to understand? Because that was the world I was living. What do you mean? And then, soon I realized that, they didn't. I mean, Colombia at the time, 98% of the population was Catholic. And besides not having access to any of these knowledge at the time, no one knew what a near-death experience was, or what like an out-of-body experience was. Like I mentioned to you, I was having out-of-body experiences, but I didn't have idea that was what happening to me. And none of these concepts, people were not even open to this. So I soon realized that, it's not even safe to talk about this. They don't understand. So over time, I felt so alone and so sad about all these that I asked the beings of light, why me? Why this is happening to me? So it's amazing how something that can be a gift can also turn into torture. Because I was this alien. And they gave me the most beautiful answer, guys. They told me, because you are special. And you are beginning to know it. And I said, what do you mean when you said that I am special? And now they gave me a even better answer. It was so beautiful because they said this. They said, everybody is special, but not everybody knows it yet. And they said, someday your experience will talk for you, and it will give you the clarity to understand and to be able to share all this knowledge with others. And they said, people will be put in your path to help you and to guide you, and we will be there every step of the way. And I want to bring something to you guys, because sometimes we feel, why I don't get this same experience or something, but we all do in different ways. We are all here, look at us, in the path of each other, sharing. And it will come in the form of books, of people, experiences. But because in a way it has to be for us in the way we are ready for it. And we can be prepared for it. So, like the beings of light said, the people that meant to be in my path started to appear. So again, like, look, now that people were here. Sometimes we just don't have the eyes to see it. And one of these people was my mom. Like I mentioned to you, I had made such a connection with my mom, and it became so strong. And at the age of 5, when I was 5, was when she actually realized that for real, I was seeing something. Because at school, I started to do these drawings. And in all the drawings, I was painting star-like figures all over the place. And I was doing drawings with auras. And that was my other skill. I came with the ability to draw, to paint really good. So it was not that I was painting outside the line. It was really clear. So the teacher approached me and she said to me, are those all the stars and the sun? And I said to her, all innocent, just like, no, those are the beings of light, my friends. Oh, the teacher, they already thought that I was weird. So the teacher went and like, oh no, I have to call your mom. Then they thought I was having like imaginary friends. So they called my mom. She came to the meeting, and it's when my mom knew. And she's like, she didn't make a big deal because she was a teacher too. She worked with kids. She looked at the teachers. She said, nothing is happening. We left. And I felt so down because I was like, and now I realize I'm really, really different from everyone else. Nobody even saw these things. So I'm like, oh no. And it's when my mom revealed to me for the first time, I believe you. I'm like, what, Mom? You believe me? And she's like, yeah, because I also can see things that others can. And it's when she told me that she has been seeing spirits since she was 5 years old. But that she has learned never talk about it. Because really quick, just like I did, she learned that it was not safe to talk about that. And it was over time when I realized that I was born in the right family, with the right mom. We have been put together because she could handle somebody like me. So what happened is that my mom just was so happy about it. And I said, why people feel afraid about this? And she said, because people are afraid of the things they cannot understand. They are fearful of the unknown. So we have to learn to be quiet. But my mom said, you have me. So she was actually repeating the same thing the beings of life have told me. So that was validating what they have told me before. And past time, and at 6 years old, guys, I saw the first spirit, what we call spirits. And I will not tell the story because it's too long, but what happened is that my mom and I saw this spirit at the same time. And when this happened, I was absolutely petrified in fear. And it's when I told my mom, but I had to experience the contrast because it's when I told my mom, Mom, the spirits and the beings of light are not the same. Because I feel really fearful there, and with the beings of light, no, this is not the same. And my mom at that moment had the realization for the things I told her, and she started to cry and just all happy and say, I think you're seeing angels. And I said, Mom, but they don't have wings like in the pictures, because all we knew was the religion. And she's like, no, it don't matter. They have to be angels, because that was all we knew. So that day, I asked the beings of light about the spirits and about that. And I said, but what is with these spirits? At the beginning, I called them dark spirits because when I was little, they produced fear, so I was scared. And I said, what you call spirits, or what your mom calls spirits, you and us, we are, I thought, imagine this, I thought the complete opposite thing. And the answer was beautiful because they said, we are all the same. The only difference is the level of awareness. The only difference between all of us is how aware you are of who you are. So, and it says life and experience will bring every being to evolve and to realize who they truly are. And that's the difference. So I asked, wow, I was just mesmerized with all these. And I said to them, are you angels? My mom said that you are angels. And every time they gave me these incredible answers, they just said to me, you can call us whatever you want. So that's beautiful because it's when we see how giving God, how giving the universe is. And it's presenting to us in a way that we can understand it. And that we can take it. I mean, from this, I don't know what else beyond, but we need a preparation to be where we are today. And later on in my life, I learned the purpose of why my near-death experience happened when I was so young. And it was incredible because all the pieces start to fit together. And they said to me, the reason why it happened when you were so young is because you were old enough to remember, but young enough not to be conditioned yet. I was born in a very strong Catholic society, so the idea was that I was a clean canvas, that I would not be contaminated by any of that. So I was being prepared. I was from before I was brought to here to just have a clean and open mind, I was able to receive all this knowledge. And my preparation continued after this. And like they said, more people started to present in my path. And that was the most amazing thing, because even my grandmother that was raised as a Catholic, now she was decided that she was going to follow other spiritual paths, because we're all there to work together. And what? Those are spiritual paths that she was following, and all the things she was learning, she ended up bringing to me. So I started to learn spirituality and other philosophies and other ways of thinking and other religions throughout my grandmother. And my grandmother was the one that taught me how to truly pray and meditate. So I started to meditate since I was 8 years old. And later on in life, through all this connection of true prayer and meditation kept me vibrating so high that now I was able to connect even greater with the light, with the beings of light. And later I realized that I was having visions of the future since I was 4 years old. And when I was 19, I was now given access to past life experiences. So now I knew, wow, what had happened in many other lives and why I was here with all these gifts. And although all these gifts were very hard and to handle and made me so different from everybody else, I also started to realize, the beings of light had said to me, that I could use these gifts to help other people. Starting with right there, with my family. So it's when we know that each one have a set of skills and a set of talents and our uniqueness. And it's all there for a purpose. And all of that, each one of us is so important in what is happening in the development and evolution of humanity. So it's when I also, over time, and with many awakenings that happen over time in my life, I realized that my work and all these gifts, like they say, were not for me. Was to work with others. Was to establish true connections like the one that happened, and that was present with my mom, that transcended time and space. And over time, I learned that all my experiences, all my sufferings, all my struggles were bringing me to ask important questions. And one of the first questions I asked to the beings of light was, how could I have seen my body lifeless if I was still alive? So I already had that clarity since I was very young. So all these big, profound questions brought me to even be more open and to receive those answers. And sometimes, guys, only through struggle, and a lot of us know that only through challenge and struggle is when we actually start asking questions. Who am I? Which is something that more people, thanks God, are asking nowadays. What is all this for? What is the meaning of life? Why am I here? What is the purpose of all this? And my experience brought me to realize that my purpose was to serve. But to serve who? I realized that it was to serve God. And from there, I now, every time when I wake up in the morning, the first question I have when I open my eyes is, God, how can I serve you? God, what can I do today to serve you? And there's another very important thing that I always say. Help me to get out of the way. Because many times, let me tell you, we ask questions, but in reality, we don't want to know the answer. We just don't want. We're afraid of it. And it's like, yeah, I want to know, but I don't want to know. And this brings us to create a lot of resistance. And things will appear that people, and we don't really want it. We want it, but we don't want it. And I even with all this, I wrote a book that I never thought I was going to write. And the book was like I heard from others, and I knew that they said, oh my God, your book is brutally honest. And when I published this book, I was so afraid And I was so petrified and I was so anxious about it and so fearful that I got sick. And it's when I got the message that, and the understanding, the realization, this is nothing to do with you. This is all about what you can do for others. And at that moment, all my fears just went away. And it's just like when I realized, yes, my life is a life of service. And I'm doing all this for others. And I have been given the possibility to help other people in many different ways. And I'm going to tell you something that happened recently, just last year, that was incredible, just to tell you one example. But last year I went to a conference. It was an afterlife conference. And in the conference, they were offering like a mediumship workshop. And even though I was not really thinking I wanted to do any mediumship or anything like that, I was drawn to go there. I felt the guidance to go there. And now I surrender and I follow this. Okay, I'm feeling this, I'm going there. And that was amazing because I went and it was actually really good. And the speaker was incredible. And at some point she started to guide us through a process of a meditation and music. And at that moment, she said she guided us to go into a room. And in the room, I met two beings of light. Wow. And at that moment, I had the whole knowledge that they were two boys. And one boy in just their recent past, their recent life that they have had here on this realm. One of the boys was in like teenage years, and the other one was a young little boy. And the teenage boy started to communicate with me, and he told me, tell my mom that I am being loved. And he said, and he was really like slow and precise in what he was saying. And he said, tell my mom that she not need to hurry. Tell my mom that she not need to worry. And he said, tell Ben. And then he paused and he said, Benjamin, that he is loved as well. And at that moment, I turned to the other boy and he said to me, tell Isa that I love the butterflies. And at that moment, the lady that was guiding the whole meditation told us to stop and to come back. Oh, and just to let you know, she guided us to sit in a circle. So we're like, the room was divided in groups and I was like in a circle of 10 people. And then we came back and everybody started to share the experience. I was the last person. And just like now, like I'm talking to you guys, I was just normal conversing. But when my turn came, I felt I was prepared to talk. And at that moment, this feeling of overwhelming was such that I could not talk. And I started to cry and I just couldn't talk. And they were amazing. They were all there like, just calm down, just breathe. And it was then I understood why I was so overwhelmed. Because I started to bring this message. And when I said that, and I saw them, it was a mom particularly just looking at me because I mentioned it was a teenage boy. And she said, and when I said, tell Benjamin, she's like, oh, that is my other son. That is his brother. My son, my teenage boy son of 18 years old passed. So when I said, he just started to say again, tell my mom that I'm being loved, that she don't need to worry. So now I understood because she said he just committed to suicide 2 weeks ago. And the boy was telling me, Mom, no matter what I did, I'm being loved. And the message now that he was giving to me was, tell my mom that Benjamin needs her. Because that's why he was saying, tell Benjamin that he's loved as well. Because Benjamin was feeling left out. And the message was to tell the mom, you have to pay attention to what is there. And I am here. And at that moment, I received the message of the little boy again, and I said, I'm receiving another message. He said, Isa, I like the butterflies. And at that moment, the mom jumped and she said, oh my God, yeah, I just planted a butterfly garden for my son that passed when he was about 6 years old. And I also saw another amazing contrast that happened that day, because the 18-year-old just had passed 2 weeks previous, and the other one had passed 30 years before. So this was again showing, as I experienced it, guys, time and space don't matter. Like when I entered to that realm that was made of pure, bright, intense, shiny light, and felt like this just had happened in the morning and I was coming back home, and it's been 3 years. There was no time. There was none of that. And recently I had the experience that my grandfather was feeling very sick, but none of us really thought he was about to pass. And I was here with my mom working in the garden, and suddenly I have the sense that, because I have the possibility to smell, to hear, to taste, and I'm like, oh, my mom, everybody's here. I said, my grandma's here, because my grandma had passed like 8 months before my grandfather, and I said, everyone is here. All the ancestors is here, including my dog that had passed recently, and I could hear his chain. Cling, cling, cling. I'm like, Mom, everyone is here. Something is going to happen. They are here gathered to receive somebody. And that night we got the message that my grandfather had passed. So they are there. And when people, I have heard this, and people ask the question, oh, they're telling me that I'm not letting him go, or I'm holding him back, or it's not true. It's not true, guys, at all, because time and space don't exist there. It's not like, oh, I have an agenda. No, what matters, what truly matters, is love. And the connection that we build between each other. And if they will wait 90 years, they will wait, because it doesn't matter. What truly matters is not the impermanence of our bodies, of our physical reality, is love. Is compassion, is the joy, is the connection that we create between each other. The beings of light said to me, nothing in the universe lacks purpose. And all of us and all these experiences, everything that is happening is for our own evolution, for our own awakening. And sometimes when I'm stuck in a challenge, when I'm stuck in a moment where I'm having suffering and I'm having problems, I now, what I do is just ask God, help me see the good on this, because I cannot see it. And I do it with true intention. And that's a pray. And when that happens, you know what? The answer will come. The answer will come. Maybe even this meeting is somebody else's prayer. Because that's what happened. We will be brought to a place where we get those answers. We start building that connection, where we feel I'm being understood. And in my case, in all the purpose it was just bring to this message of connection. Our challenges guide us to see and realize that we cannot do this alone, guys. The universal plan, the plan that we cannot see or comprehend. Sometimes I show it like if it was a big tapestry. And each one of us is a thread in that tapestry. What happens if you pull that thread? Now you see that there's something missing there. Or like when you have a big puzzle. If there's a missing piece, the puzzle is not complete. So each one of us are here with a unique purpose. I always put the example of the fingers and the hand. Each finger is different. Each finger is unique, but alone they don't do anything. If I chop this finger off, what is it going to do? Nothing. So it's all unique, all different, but all attached to the same hand. It's the uniqueness that encompasses unity. So guys, we cannot do we cannot do this work alone. We are here to be together, to show each other what we cannot see. We are here to create groups like this because, and sometimes just when a very bad situation happens, a challenge happens, is when we realize, oh, I need others. It's when we start becoming more empathic towards others. Because being honest, we cannot feel the pain of the other that is suffering certain sickness or certain thing there if we have not been there. So we experience it now, we know the pain, we know the suffering, and it's when we're starting to think, how am I treating myself and how am I treating others? Am I being compassionate? Am I being loving towards others? We are here together to do the work and to guide each other to the right place here and now. All of this is bringing us to the realization, like I had when I nearly died, that we are the light. And we can be the light in the path of each other. Each one of us is that little light. And imagine if we connect more light and more light and more light, there was a moment that it will be a huge flame. And that flame will be able to illuminate the entire humanity. The beings of light said to me, the purpose of time and experience is to help you remember. This is amazing. Help you remember who you truly are. But like I said again, we cannot do this alone. If I have a dirt in my face, I cannot see it. I need someone that point that to me. If I'm not near to a mirror, I need it. And not everybody will do it. You know this. Only the people that feel empathy towards you, that loves you, who say, oh, you're dirty, we'll go and clean you or do it. But what if we can really start making these connections with more and more people? Like it happened with me. I mean, with the maid, there was rupture. There was nothing there. And that's the problem. That's the people we create wars with. I'm not like you. And this lady was even mean to us. Because I don't feel anything about you. You know. But what happened when we establish those true connections? Now we grow together. And I have to say, love is the glue that keeps us together. And love is what we have to establish to reunite. And someday we just have enough clarity to realize my purpose is here and now. With my family, with my kids, with my community, with myself, with my co-workers. Peace, love, joy starts here, now with each one of us. And before we finish, I want to show you, if you know what is the difference between illness and wellness. And this is awesome. Illness, we see it's when I center in me. It's all for me, what I want for me, me and me. Wellness, we. Together, connected. That's how we're going to solve the problems of the world. United, creating wholeness. So I say to end that someday we will realize that there is not even you and me. There is only one heart, one mind, one essence, one source, one creator. We breathe the same air. Our hearts are all beating the same. That's our connection. That's our mantra. We are one. And only time and experience, the experience that we have together beyond the egoic mind, that is me and only me, will bring us there. You're welcome. Thank you for inviting me. This has been amazing.